All right, Mr. Cesar, so how do you see the trail?
It's fun. Very relaxing, peaceful.
Very, very peaceful, right?
The phone don't work.
Disconnect time.
Nobody's trying to distract our great conversations.
So normally when we do on this second part is we dive into the nitty gritty, right? We talked about a little bit of where you come from, what you do, how you see things, but I'm gonna talk about real quick. You posted your on your YouTube channel a video, and you talked about your where you are, where you come from, and that video was very impacting. And you and I had a conversation about this, that most of us sometimes don't know how we can impact somebody else's life by sharing what we know, letting them know that that it's okay to fail, that you're not embarrassed of it, or you can just inspire them to let somebody know, look, this is what I did wrong, but maybe it could work out for you. Or that video that you did was very, very inspiring. Let's talk about that a little bit. I know that we'll put your link on your YouTube, but talk about why. I thought it was interesting. You and I already had this conversation, but why was it important for you to share that?
Because one of the things that I've learned in life, that the good times don't make it, it's the hard times, right? And everybody sees the glory, everybody sees perspectives and their own ways of, okay, well, this person does this, or this person drives that car. But at the end of the day, that doesn't matter. What matters is that journey, that process when you're broken, right? When you're broken, very few people know how to get out of that place, right? And to me, it was like, I've been broken many, many times, and I continue to still, and what I mean by broken is things don't work out the way I planned them, right? Life gets in the way. Like I was saying at the beginning, when we're on the right up here, life is very unpredictable. So you set yourself to do something, and it doesn't turn out that way. So to me, I was sitting there one day, and I'm like, I need to share my story, because people don't really know what I do, where I come from, how I got where I'm at, and how I continue to grow from there. So I was like, I had to share my failures. I had to share that it's been super hard. It's really hard. 98% of my journey has been hard. That 2% has been because I've been understanding the process. So I'm at a point in my life where I know that, okay, this happened to me because I did this. It took me a long time to figure that out. And on top of that, we talked about emotions. Nobody teaches us that life is failure. Life is not, easy. And when you're in that point where you're looking up and everything's just falling on top of you, what do we do? Those are the emotional times that most people never want to talk about, because they think people are going to talk shit about them or laugh at them. But to me, it's like, that's strength. A person that can share their failures and share their vulnerability to others, that's actually strength. That's not a weakness. I grew up thinking that if I keep it to myself and I just show how strong I am, that I'll be stronger than most people. Actually, I'm weaker because I'm holding it in, and I don't understand how I wasn't taught how to share my emotions to people of the world. So that's why I did that podcast, because I wanted people to know that, hey, I go through the same struggles as anybody else. Like, I'm no different. I don't actually have a magic wand that I could just, I don't want that to happen to me, and it's not gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
But your touch goes into gold.
So, because going back to because I understand myself now, so I know exactly where I could put myself into. I know what I could say yes to, and I know what I could say no, because the choice I make actually has an impact on my life. We all do. Any choice we make. So through that whole process, talking about my personal life, I made a lot of bad choices, right? I made the choices that I thought were right, and they were wrong. And what happened was, that's the outcome I had. I had to lose everything. I had to be pretty much homeless. I had no money. I was living on government help for like 3 years. And I'm not embarrassed to say it, because that's what I had to go through. And I never gave up. If I would have given up, what would have happened? We wouldn't be here. Yeah. I don't know where I'll be. But my stubbornness, right? Me trying to always figure things out that's the reason we're here. And you know, that story, I actually listened to it already like 6 times and I cry because I'm like, no, because I never took the time to realize my life. I was so focused on building and it's so crazy because even in my personal life, my marriage, my children, they've lost a lot of me because I've been out there trying to figure this thing out called entrepreneurship, right? That I lost many, many years of my own children growing up. I've lost times with moments with my wife and my kids because I can't be there, because I have so many other responsibilities and I had to attend to them and I couldn't be there for them. And that creates also friction on your personal life. So it's, you know, they say balance. As an entrepreneur, the balance is business and family. Like, that's the balance. It's never going to be even. So one of the things I've learned is quality over quantity. So if I give my wife, my children, the quality of time, it makes up for the quantity.
Yeah,
right?
Very, very true.
You know, you said something that I'm going to relate to right now, that we don't take the time to view ourselves. We don't take the time to study ourselves. We don't take the time to look ourselves in the mirror, right? And sometimes you hear somebody's story and then you're like, holy crap, that's just what I'm going through right now. Oh my God, I feel that person, right? Because everybody, emotions is what drives people, right? So, yeah, it was very, very, very inspiring for me to hear your story because I relate a lot to what you do, to what you said. Have you gone through life and have you handle your life? So, and I always pick your brain up every time we talk. I don't take it for granted when he answers the phone. One, because you said earlier, valuing your time, valuing who you are, and I know you're a busy man, but so let's talk about what has been your most the point in time in your life where your hardest failure. I know that you said that you're stubborn and you don't give up, but what was that one thing that you were trying to do that you said, okay, from now on, aquí es donde le voy a echar 100% effort y todo? ¿Qué fue lo que hizo que cambiara a donde ya has estado ahorita, a donde estás ahorita?
You know, it's pretty interesting, porque the pandemic actually was that pivotal moment for me. It was so funny because we actually had that event. Remember the event right before the pandemic? It was out there in Downey. Mm-hmm. And we were setting up the next one, and then the pandemic hit. And actually, I actually took the time to start reflecting on, and this is going to align with the question, it's going to answer the question of who am I? What am I doing, right? I was involved in the insurance industry, as we all know, and to that point, I was failing in the industry, right? I was just another statistic, but I was stubborn. So I started reflecting on that. At the same time, I got invited into being a partnership in the Amazon automation store, and through that process, I realized the power of that platform. And we're talking about 2.5 years ago when it hit, the pandemic. Everything came together, like all my experiences, everything I ever built in the insurance industry. I was trying to figure out, okay, there's a lot more than what I've seen so far. So I started out there exploring. I started out there connecting. And what the pandemic did, it gave me time, right? Because we couldn't go nowhere.
Yeah.
So I actually sat back and I started realizing, okay, well, there's opportunities. And the biggest risk that I said I did was I took the leap that I was always expecting. Everything I ever built has been done by myself, right? With, of course, not by myself, but I'm saying people and small. But I never leverage people's money, and this is a pivotal moment for me because I always invested my own money to do my own businesses, small, and I could say that to that point I felt like I had made it, but during the pandemic, I learned how to leverage money. And what I mean by that was using banks' money, credit cards' money, or whatever it took to build something. And I never did that. And I'll share a quick story on my Amazon store. My first, the year of the pandemic, I did $2.8 million from like April to like December on a credit card. I literally made, I spent $2.8 million on a credit card, right? People think that's stupid. But you know what happened was all my profits I kept. I paid the credit card off and all my profits stayed in the bank. So it made me realize, like, holy shit, I could literally go build something using other people's money. So we're talking 2020. And that was a pivotal moment for me. I was like, damn, I could go out there. So literally, me and my ex-partner, we go and talk to the person that was running our store, and we ended up buying 66% of his company. So we went from clients to owning 66% of the company.
Wow.
And through that whole process, everything, my mind I took the lid off and I was like, man, I could go build anything. So going back to your question, that was a pivotal moment for me to be able to say, okay, I'm ready to just take the lid off and go balls out. And I started going wide, bought into that company. Going back to that, what was in the insurance industry, just like you were saying earlier, I was trying to figure out, I'm on the sidelines. I'm not a transactor, but I'm out on the sidelines looking at what the industry needs, right? The industry needs actually, they're antiquated. They don't know how to market. They don't know how to generate leads, right? So I figured out, okay, if I learn how to bring in-house leads, right, I could build this thing. And so we got into the life insurance parallel. We got into the Medicare. So we have two companies that are side by side that offer two services. And the reason most of these companies never make it is because they don't know how to generate leads. So we built a Medicare call center in Phoenix. We built a life insurance department in Phoenix. And now we're here in California as well. We have an office in Garden Grove. And what we did was we, again, go out there and you start networking and building relationships without an intention. And I met two gentlemen, Southern and Ron. They're my business partners. They were in the Medicare space and the life insurance space. These guys worked at a company to help build that just sold for over $100 million. So I bring them, they already have a track record, they already have the systems, and we plug our people in. And during AEP last year, we did 870 policies in a 6-week period in Medicare. That's unheard of. And we did with 7 agents. So going back to that, and it's not to brag about the numbers, it's because what happened through the pandemic, I was able to reflect on myself. I was able to reflect on what I could do. So I started building all these companies using other people's money, not mine. Just imagine that.
Yeah. There's a book that I read from Jim Rome that says that people look at debt or using other people's money as wrong, but with the wealth, that's what they do.
You do.
He's like, I didn't use my money, I used somebody else's money. Sure. And then I just put my profits right back in there. But you don't know what you don't know, and it took you all this time for you to figure that one out.
And then now I teach people how to do it, And through that whole process, I acquired another company. I have an Airbnb automation company. Me and my partner, Justin from Amazon, we own 50% of it. And now we have 70 properties all over the United States, Tulum. We have a whole team, a whole structure that runs it, and we manage it. And it's great, right? And using other people's money. How
was that transition from you that you said, I like the analogy that I opened the lid and this is like, boom, the world's mine. What do you look for? What does Cesar Gomez look for when there's a business opportunity? How do you dissect that opportunity?
Good question. It's if I could add value. If I can't add value, if I can't pick up my phone and call 2-3 people that are in the space that can help me, I won't do it. And there's many opportunities that come my way that I'm like, hey, I can't add value. And that's the first thing I always say. I can't add value. So it's very easy for me to make a decision because now I'm like, like for example, the Airbnb, my partner in Amazon, he's been able to automate Amazon. We have over 200 virtual assistants that work for us out in Thailand and Bangladesh, right? He's been able to build that, So all we had to do was plug the same model into Airbnb. So we have the value, right? And the thing is our partner, which is an amazing as well person that he's been in the Airbnb space for, 5-6 years, had cracked a code that nobody could. All he needed was money, right? So guess what? I bring the money. I have the networks. So we bring the money, we just blow it up. So now we put the automation and the money, and guess what you do? You take the lid off to the top.
That is so interesting.
Yeah. So the thing is like, so when I make a decision, it's based on value, right? I own a trucking company. My partner's been my right-hand man for 11 years, since he was 18. Kid's a multi-millionaire. He started a trucking company. His family's been in the transportation space for years. And he started his own company, and he was ready, and he asked me to come, and I said no. And he bankrupt. 3 years later, he does it again, and guess what? I was ready. He was ready, because he was under my mentorship. And guess what? We're crushing it. I've never seen the trucks. I invested, I own 50% of the company with him, and he's running the whole operation. I've never even seen my trucks. I don't know the drivers. I don't know anything.
That's crazy. So do you like startups? What does Cesar look for as far as an opportunity that obviously you mentioned
that it
value?
connects to my existing companies?
You can just plug them in. Boom,
yeah.
boom,
So
boom,
they all
boom.
connect. So everybody I'm in business with, they all know each other and they all add value to each other. Like I was telling you, the NFT project that we have, the utility is my own companies, right? So it's a nostalgic idea, and we're bringing so much value, so many great people that I'm blessed to be part of as partners. But we have utilities that most people want if you own our NFT. And now our company, our NFT company, actually is going to have a subdivision that we're going to become a consulting company for other NFT projects, because we have, and not to brag, we have the best of the best people of the NFT space on our company. They actually own a piece of the company. So any idea that comes to me, it has to fit in what I already do. If I got to go spend 2-3 years trying to figure it out, I won't do it, because it's taking away from what I already have. So like, for example, my insurance partners are investors in my Airbnb, and my Airbnb partner is an investor. Well, no, but my trucking partner is an investor in my NFT project and my call centers, and my crypto, my NFT expert is an investor in my Medicare costs. It's all wrapped up. So they're all connected. We all winning. It's not just one person. Everybody's winning.
It's full circle.
It's a full circle. And then my partners on the call centers, the partners that I brought from Arizona, they're investors in the NFT and they're investors in Airbnb.
Now, did you strategically did that, or is that something that
It evolved.
It evolved.
No, if I would have planned, it would not work out. But what has happened is, since I grow them, right? We all grow together. They have the money to play. They have the money to invest. And then since everybody in my circle now uses other people's money, well, guess how they build?
Makes sense.
So they're not taking from their families. They're not taking from their savings. They're using other people's money.
Interesting. Very, very interesting.
So now everything that we own and everything that we operate, it's the same circle, but in different parallels with different strengths. And everybody's a master of their own craft. And instead of them trying to go figure out Airbnb, be like, here's the money, you run it for me, and I just see the passive money hit my bank. And what are they going to do? Keep building the company, because they don't have to leave the playing field.
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. What advice would you give somebody that obviously might have a business already, kind of struggling to pick up their business? I've always said it's not always about, and we were talking about this before filming, they sit on their desk trying to, or praying that, people walk through. And I know that it's going to be really hard to happen, right? It's no longer this, ya no estamos en los mismos tiempos, en las mismas eras que antes, diferentes eras. A una persona que tiene un negocio that's, struggling, or they want to upskill their business, what advice would you give, or what would you say that has helped you elevate your businesses, or an advice a alguien?
And that's a question that I could answer, but people have to really take it serious. They got to look at themselves in the mirror. The problem is them. That's all it is. And that's a very hard one to swallow.
Yeah.
Because if your company's struggling, it's not your employees. It's the leader. The leader, you know, this is how I live my life as a leader and all my leaders. If the company or the team fails, it's the leader's fault. Hands down. So the problem is the person that's leading the pack. If we win, guess who did it? The team. The leader never gets acknowledged. And if you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to remember this. You're never going to get credit for shit. Ever. Nobody's ever going to say, hey, just because of you, we're here winning. Nobody ever calls me and say, Cesar, thanks for fucking XYZ. Nobody. I'm the one that has to. I'm the one that had that self-evaluation. That's the reason I did that podcast, right? It was to be able to share my story so people could have hope, right? Because it's for hope. But at the reality, for me to be able to turn things around, I had to take a self-evaluation. That's what I did during the pandemic because nobody was distracting me. I didn't have to go nowhere. I had all the time in the world to reflect. And that's what I did. And I just took the lid off, right? So if anybody's struggling out there and everybody's like, oh man, what's going on? It's the economy. No, it's not. It's you.
Yeah.
You're the problem. You think if I sit there and be like, oh, you know, Airbnb, there's a recession coming, you know, I have 70 units that I'm responsible for. Like, what happens? Nothing's gonna happen. You know what? It's so crazy. When we bought into this company, I had a network in Dubai. Literally, I got 3 properties in Dubai just so I could stretch myself, so I could figure out how to run properties in Dubai. Never been to Dubai, ever in my life. I have a property in Tulum. Never been in Tulum. I'm actually gonna go in September just to go look at it. But that's how we have to be. You have to stretch, right? And if you don't stretch, then if you're expecting it to be easy, it's not. So anybody that's struggling, the first thing you gotta do is do a self-evaluation. And that's it. And you're the problem. And a lot of people won't like that answer because they're gonna say, oh, try to do more ads no, you're the problem.
Yeah.
You need to clean yourself up. And if you don't, you're gonna struggle all the time.
That is very, very true.
You know, and the thing is, I'm in a point in my life, Alex, that I want to tell people the truth. You know, I'm not sugarcoating anything. I'm not trying to sell a course. I'm just telling people the truth because the truth hurts, but it'll make you better. Now, if the truth hurts you and you're an entrepreneur, you need to kind of reevaluate yourself. Maybe you're not an entrepreneur and it's okay. You know, that's another thing. People are trying to do things that's not their calling, and they're forcing things. And that's what I said earlier. When you build a genuine relationship, a general partnership, a company, and it feels forced, it's not going to work because it's forcing itself. Mm-hmm. But if it's naturally coming together, it's naturally evolving, that's where I spend my time. I don't spend my time on things. Look, there's been companies that I've left just because it doesn't feel right. And you know, I had a company I was making $250,000 a year, just take home for me, right? And I left because I didn't feel good. It felt forced. You know, the company, the company we started in Arizona, the Medicare call center, and I left and I started all over again because it didn't feel right. The partners I had, they just the dynamics were all messed up, and I left. And we that literally my investment quadrupled within 3 months just because of what we did there. And I came and did it again. And it's okay. But how many people that's something I want to share is how many people are sitting there struggling in their business knowing that that's not their calling, knowing that that's not what they're going to break through on. And they're forcing it and they're just hurting themselves emotionally in every aspect you could think of. And if people really evaluate, say, you know what, this is not what I'm meant to do, fucking leave. Grab your shit, pack your shit, and leave. You know how many people I brought onto my team that swore, and I'll talk about insurance. I brought in people that swore that they were the top dog in the industry, and I cut them off. And I brought them as owners out of the company, and they were lying. They didn't, and we had to vote them out of the company, and they're struggling. One of them just recently fucking had to close his office, and he claimed he was the top dog of final expense, and literally had an office and everything, and we voted him out because he was not the right fit, and he was making things hard, and now I just heard he just shut down his doors. And why? Because he has to go do something else. That's not his calling.
Yeah. It's important. I shared this story on Instagram the other day. I'll share it with you real quick. He was a guy here in Hesperia, and he was just telling me, that he has about 6 months, he's gonna close, da da da. So then I asked him, I was like, what got you into this business? Why are you doing what you're doing? He's like, oh, it's because where I used to work before, I was a top salesman and da da da. And what people need to understand, or sometimes, like we said, we don't know what we don't know. We think we're good at something because we do it on an everyday basis. But when it's not what you love to do, it's not, you're doing it because of the money, not because of those intentions, the good intentions, the fulfillment, then it's never gonna work out. Because like you said, you're just forcing it to work because of the money. Because a lot of people, and I've changed this myself over the few years, if you chase money, you're never gonna catch it. People get, the money. The people say, oh, si no tienes dinero, no eres feliz, or da da da. They throw this stuff at you. But people that chase money, they'll never be successful in life.
I have a philosophy of chasing money. Chasing money is like chasing a butterfly. It's gonna elude you. You think you got it, and it just slips out of your hands. You're never gonna. You attract money by the person you become, by the value you add to the marketplace, the value you add to the things you do. It's like I was sharing with you, every parallel I'm involved with, those parallels connect each other. So I'm adding value to my team, my partners, and they all get the same opportunities to invest in what I do, right? So guess what I'm doing? Adding value. So by default, what happens to me? More money comes my way. I don't do things for money. I do them for the challenges. I thrive on unknowns. I thrive now. And that's what happened to the pandemic. It took the lid off that. What fulfills me? What fuels me is something that, that I could add value to, and knowing that I don't know the result. That's what fuels me every fucking day. Like I wake up and I'm like, what shit am I gonna get into today? that I could be like, fuck, that shit's hard. I want to do this.
So you actually look for it.
I do. That's my high.
Interesting.
And what you're gonna realize with with high achievers is that we all thrive on the same thing. We all thrive on that high. It's the dopamine squirt of the unknown. That's what I thrive for. Because at the end of the day, if we look at this beauty, right? Somebody was walking this planet Earth with just this.
Yeah.
Right? And then somebody decided one day, say, let's make a chair, right? Out of this. Because pretty much everything that we have in this planet Earth comes from here, the nature, right? And somebody did it. And probably how many people thought that person was fucking crazy? How many people, that person that was trying to build that chair said, you're crazy, right? And he builds it. Now we're in an age where, somebody, you come out with an idea, right? And it could be built because the planet Earth has all the resources. So now, why wouldn't I say, I'm going to get into something that's challenging? Because if somebody walked this earth hundreds and millions of years ago, right? I mean, I don't know exactly how long, and they were able to create what we have so far. Where the fuck we have no limits.
Interesting.
Right? That's why when I came into the insurance industry, I didn't come just to be existing. I came to disrupt it. And we're shaking. So I told you earlier the things we have unlocked, the things we're working on, and not because I want to brag. It's because that's what I want. What is hard to get? That. Okay, well, I'm going to go get it. I'll be back. Watch me. And I bring it to the table, and everybody's like, fuck. And it's crazy because my partners and my teams know that. Like, hey, well, if we're struggling, let's just call Cesar. He'll figure it out.
What's funny, guys? I'll share something with you guys real quick about him. This is one of the things that I got really intrigued with him when I first met him. We had a training facility, right? Training academy. Yes. Let's just call it that. And I was talking to him, we started talking, just getting to know each other. Once again, wasn't nothing about business or anything of that nature. But then I asked him throughout maybe a month or so, 2 months of, connecting and talking and what have you. I'm like, do you in the insurance industry? He's like, no. And I'm like, I'm just here to do this and that. He's like, oh, I'm sitting back. I'm on the sidelines. And I never saw him, doing any classes or anything. So I was like, it didn't add up to me, right? And then later on, he's like, well, I just like to, sit in the back, observe, and, see what the problem is, and then I'll bring the solution. And it's funny that that's something that you do and it's worked for you. And I told you earlier where we were setting up, I actually grabbed that from you and I applied it. Because it's very, very true. Sometimes te dejas llevar por lo que van a decir de ti, o te dicen que no hagas esto, or no, it's going to be too hard, no, you're already doing this. But you need to really sit back and look who's out there, like we mentioned. Who am I going to listen to? What value am I really going to bring to this? And just observe.
Don't get wrapped up in the noise.
Yeah.
Because everybody gets wrapped up in the noise. I just eliminate the noise and I watch. And then when I watch, I'm like, okay, that's what's needed. Okay, that's what we need. And the thing is like when you get wrapped, and we all do. We're human. It's normal, right? And let's talk about the insurance industry. A lot of people get wrapped up on the hype, right? They get wrapped up on the paychecks, right? I don't get wrapped up on that. I get wrapped up on how could I have everybody make that paycheck? And like I was sharing with you earlier, I got an 18-year-old kid that graduated high school 2 months ago, and he's making more money than people that have been in the industry 10 years.
You showed me that.
And I showed you. And it's not to brag. It's just because I figured out a system that works. And now I do plug my own kid in it. And his friends are like, dude, could I do this? I'm like, yeah, talk to my dad. So he's bringing me people to hire to bring on to our call centers. And it's crazy because all they do is plug into the system. It's not like they have to reinvent the wheel. They just plug into it. It works.
Yeah. So you think you agree with that you don't get success, you attract success?
100%. You attract it by who you are. And let's break it down, right? When you're in a circle of influence of people that complain, right? What do? What do we do as humans? We complain because we attract it, right?
We duplicate the mindset.
You hang around people that gossip, then you catch yourself gossiping. We attract it, right? And the problem of today's times is nobody creates awareness to others. That's why they say you are who you hang around with. Right? We said that since we were growing up, our parents, dime con quién te juntas y te diré quién eres, right? But it's deeper than that, right? What if they taught us, be like, mira, si esa persona se pone a chismear, tú vas a ser un chismoso también, right? But if they break it to you down that way, what do? I'll be like, oh shit, it's true. I don't want to be a chismoso. But what happens? Then you get wrapped up on the chisme too, and then you become a chismoso just like them. Or you hang around with people that are actually doing better things in life, and what do? Start doing better things in your life. So what happens is we all have the understanding of those concepts, but nobody ever taught us how they work. That's the problem. We could hear all these dichos and all these quotes, right? But break them down. So it's true. You attract who you are. So if all our lives we've been wrapped up with hanging around with people that gossip, people that complain, well, what are we going to be? We're going to be chismosos and complainers. So if we want to get rid of that, what do you got to do? Get rid of your circle of influence. And what happens is it's hard, right? Because if you want to cut people off, what do you have to avoid them. And what happens with that? Oh, fuck, van a decir de mí, right? So then now you're stuck in this rat race, right? Or not, you're wrapped up in this cycle that you're like, fuck it, let's just hang out. I don't hang around with people. Like if I feel that you're not a fit for me, I cut you off. I wouldn't even reply to you. And the thing is, why? Because it's like...
Is that hard to do?
No, not no more. Because now people are my wife says, oh, people are scared of you. No, they just are intimidated by me because I'll tell you the truth. And if I see that you have some type of influence, of your ways of being, and again, I respect every human being on this planet. If that's the way you want to be, perfect. Like, I just don't want to be that person. I don't want to engage in your stuff. So I just stay quiet. I'm a selective listener. And no, people, it's funny because people don't really come and ask me. It's funny. They don't. Not no more. They don't even come around. Like even like I have close friends and like they'll come and say hello. They'll never talk business with me. They will never pick my brain. It's so funny because now it's like, oh, okay, I'll just sit there. And so many people have access to me. That's another part, and they won't take advantage of it. And that's how I know that they're wrapped up in the wrong circle. So they can't attract me to them because they're not attractive in the mind.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy. Well, I mean, I think it's super important that, like I said, every time I have an opportunity with you, chit chat and pick your brain a little bit. And that's something that I've learned, once again, past couple of years. And it's made a huge difference. Yeah. It's made a 360-degree circle. I know people will tell you, oh, ya cambiaste, you're not the same person no more, and da-da-da.
And that's good, right?
And that just tells, yeah. And
take it as a compliment.
Yeah, literally. I mean, because it literally is, right? It is what it is. How was it for you in the beginning to close out?
It's hard because at the end of the day, emotions, right? You grew up with certain people and you think you're going to be around them for the rest of your life. You grow around your siblings and you think you'll be around them the rest of your life. You grow around my mother, my dad passed away 16 years ago. But, I have her, I have a sister. And, it's just one of those things. You learn how to know when to spend. Like for me, and that's what my wife says, like, wow, like, you don't want to see them. Like, I do, but I don't want to, it's just, they're in a different wavelength than me. And they know that, and they respect that, And I share a quick, to take it deeper of how I spend time with people. So when I meet someone, or if you're an acquaintance, or if you're a family member, I have ringtones for each person. You do. Based on priorities, or based on influence. So like my top priority is my wife and my kids. So they have their own personal ringtone. My business partners have their own ringtone, right? So that way, if I'm conversating with you and I hear my phone ring, I know if it's a priority. And if you're not a priority to me, I mute you. So I don't even know that you text me or call me. And so what you're adding to how I dealt with it now, when I started doing that, people, oh, I texted you a week ago. I'm like, yeah, I haven't got back to you because I don't have time. And just so, and I want to put this out there, is the way we respond to people is the way we program them. So if somebody texts you and you reply back right away, you're programming that person that you reply instantly. But when you leave somebody without replying a week, they know that you're going to take a week to reply. So you're cutting them off unconsciously. So for me, when I did that to my phone and I started realizing who's a priority and what's a priority to me, I started responding in that manner. Well, everything kind of molded itself because now people are, oh, Cesar takes a week to reply, so I'm not expecting anything back.
No, it's true because I took a self-development class and it talks about that you can't be available for everybody right away. You have to give yourself that value and that you're not always just somebody calls you, texts you, and then you have to reply right away. And that's who I was before. I don't have to reply because then what are they gonna say? Da, 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 da. And now it's like, no, I am sorry, I was busy. I'll give you the time when the time is right, or set up a meeting. Okay, well now I have to wait next week.
Yeah. That's it.
And
nothing's gonna happen. And one of the things I want to kind of add to what you just said is, what are they gonna say? What are they gonna say? I always say this, right? If I'm self-made, right? Either I'm self-made successful or I'm self-made failure, right? Who gives a fuck what anybody says, right? Because how many people are gonna be a failure and admit they're self-made? Think about that. Who's gonna say I'm a fucking self-made failure?
Nobody.
So does it matter what they say?
No.
And that's one thing I teach my kids is like, and I use my kids as an example because everything I learned so far, I dump into them because I want them to go out there and be able to be the best version of themselves, right? And I'm like, oh, well, what is this person going to say? What are they going to say? As long as somebody doesn't come and punch you, it doesn't fucking matter what they say. You think I care what people say about me or think of me? They don't even know me. And that's the beauty about me, right? I shared my story, right, for the first time. So people didn't even know who I was. And people will talk shit about me, how I do business or how I behave in business. I don't care, because at the end of the day, you look at my track record, right? And you ask people that know me and ask my name, it's gonna come out with a lot of respect. So why would it matter what anybody thinks of me? Because I know who I am. The people that worry about what people think is the people that haven't built anything.
Yeah.
Think about it. You ask Donald Trump if he cares what the world thinks of him. He don't.
Gives two,
right?
3x.
But you ask somebody that's struggling, the entrepreneur that's sitting there, and the biggest concern in his head is like, man, what are people gonna say if I close my business?
Yeah.
Who gives a fuck? Go open another one. Go
And
try
that
something
one you're
else.
gonna be successful on.
You know, that's one of the things, you know, and I'll kind of maybe shine some light on that. If you listen, you know, you listen to my story, right? And I did all kinds of crazy shit. I sang. I recorded 3 albums, and people ask me, how did you do that? I know people try to be musicians. They don't even know how to get into a recording studio. I did it. I was out there posting poster boards. I went and tried. And I got a recording deal without trying. Does that make sense? So it's like, why? You think I care what people say? No, nobody should. Because at the end of the day, when we die, nobody's going to jump in the hole with you and die with you.
That's true.
Think about that, right?
That is true.
When I die, I just want all my teachings, all my lessons for other people to be implementing in their lives. That's how I live my legacy, right? But people think, well, what are people going to say? Well, if you ever get yourself caught up on that, just remember the analogy. When you die and they're burying you and they're throwing the dirt, nobody's going to jump in there with you and bury themselves with you. So it really doesn't matter what they say. And that's just the facts, you know. Unfortunately, you know, and I want to add it deeper because, you know, I take a lot of self-evaluation. All this comes from our upbringing. Think about it. When we were growing up, when we were born with a clear hard drive in our brain. Where did we get all these concepts of what are they going to say? From our upbringings. Parents, siblings, family members, friends. That's where it comes from, right? So we got to understand it's just everybody says the same things over and over. And let's talk about our culture. Our culture teaches us, oh, que van a decir de ti. Oh, pues sí, sí. So what happens? Now you shut yourself down and now you fucking lost self-confidence because you're so worried about... It's like, for example, when I started singing, I'd go on stage, never been on fucking stage. I didn't give a fuck, right? Then again, I get invited to go sing again. I go on stage, right? Nobody knows who I am, but there's this guy that believes in me. And what happened? He takes me to go record 3 albums.
That's crazy.
Just imagine I would have been scared and worried about what people were gonna say.
You would have not had that opportunity.
And it's not that I wanted a music career. I was young, and I took advantage of it. I leveraged it. I was out there at clubs, going in for free, hanging out with the celebrities at that time, build relationships with them. And I did that for free. It didn't cost me anything. You know? So the thing is, I share those analogies because, you know, I live with the mindset, I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks. And even till today, like, I don't care. Like, if you want to tell me something, tell me, but I don't care. Because it's not going to hurt me. It's not going to change who I am. Yeah. And what happens is we live in a world where we were so engraved with that, right, that people start living their life with so much fear and doubt because, oh, what are they going to say? Well, they don't pay your bills. They don't pay your mortgage. They're not going to jump in the hole when you die with you. So who cares? So I use these analogies to talk myself. When I start getting that self-doubt, that's how I talk to myself. Well, who the fuck's going to jump in the hole with you? Nobody. Fuck it. Who cares?
Let it go.
You know, but it's hard when nobody teaches us this, right? Because this is what we're talking about. You can't just really go take a class at a community college. It's all life experiences, right? So the thing is like, you laugh because it's true. I went to college, and I'll share a quick story because I went to college thinking, check this story out. So I'm in college, and I don't know what the fuck I'm doing there, right? Like, I'm like, what am I going to college for? I've always wanted to figure out how to make money, right? I literally went to my advisor's. It was a marketing class or a finance class. I don't remember. And I set up an appointment. I walk in and I told the teacher, I was like, what classes could I take to show me how to make money? And he looked at me. He was like, well, what do you mean? I was like, yeah, I go, I'm sitting in an accounting class, but they're teaching me how to do accounting for a company. But I want to, well, is there a class to teach me how to make money? And he looked at me. He's like, these all these classes you're taking. I'm like, no, for myself. Not for somebody. And he's like, well, we don't have one. So I was like, what the fuck am I doing here? But again, I'm grateful I have a degree. I never brag about it because that didn't help me anything in what I'm doing today. Look, and it's crazy, and I'll show you real quick. When I went to my advisor and I asked him how to make money, and he told me, there's no classes, you are in the classes. I was like, okay. I'm grateful that I went to college, but I'll share something with you that I realized. Accounting, I took the class, but now I have an accountant that works for my CPA has her assistant's my assistant. So because I have so many companies, so now I hired a CPA that works for me. So I don't need to know how accounting works. Number two is I took business law. You need law to be able to protect you from your business. My attorney owns a piece of every company of mine. So I have a legal counsel in every of my companies. So if I get legal in trouble, he's there to protect me. So I didn't have to understand law. So now I have my he's a great man. He's a great, he's been an attorney for 30 plus years. And I bring him on the board of the company so that way he's the legal counsel for every company. You can protect it. So just imagine that. I went to college and the things they were teaching me, I just hired people to be on my team and I don't have to worry about that. And that's what I went in college to teach me on how do I do that. I didn't want them to tell me how to do accounting. I hate accounting. I hate business law. I don't like it. So now I'm able to hire the best of the best to do the accounting for me, to have legal counsel for me and everything that I own. And going back to the question you said earlier, like, how do you deal with people when you cut them off? Well, if it's a business partner that tried to screw me, I don't. I have my attorney do it for me. And and not to brag, because there's been bad people out there that try to take advantage of me and try to take advantage of the situation. And, I don't deal with them anymore. I just hand them over to the attorney. They deal with them. And I don't have to lose sleep over it. But how many entrepreneurs get out there, get in trouble, and they have no legal backing, no resource? Yeah. There's two things you need in business for sure: a good accountant and a good attorney. And if you don't have those, I say first thing you do is find them.
That is very, very true. It's very, very important.
Because it's very expensive to hire a legal counsel, and it's very expensive to hire a good accountant.
That's the difference maker in a business.
Those are like the core things in the business. People dime a dozen, but good attorneys and good accountants are not.
So, Cesar, what's your take, or I want to pick your brain on this, or you might have already answered me this question earlier, and I'm way over here. How important do you think it is to have core values in a company? Not only that, have a culture. And I know you probably answered me that already earlier, because you say how if they're not a fit for you, you don't do business with them. But in your companies and in your circle, let's just call it that way, how important it is to know what your culture is, either with Cesar Gomez or your companies. Do you have that? How do you do it? And what do you think is important?
That's a great question. So, core values let's talk about core values first, right? So my, core values and standards are super important. My 3 core values and standards are clarity, integrity, and attentiveness, right? Core values and standards is what you set yourself to do. So like, for example, myself, my core values are integrity, clarity, and attentiveness. Those are my 3 core values and standards. Clarity. If I say if I'm gonna talk to you, we're gonna do this, this, and this, that's clarity. And I expect you to tell me the same thing and not bullshit. So that's clarity. For sure, you have to have clarity. Integrity is that if you say you're gonna do something, you go do it. You don't just, give excuses. And I'll tell you, I've cut in a lot of people from my circle just because of that. Because they say they could do something and they don't do it. And attentiveness to people. Like, for example, if you're on my team and you're not producing, let's say example, I want to figure out what's wrong with you. So I'm attentive, like, how you doing? Oh, what's going on? What's and I do that with my whole team. It's so crazy because as soon as I talk to someone or I see how they respond to me, I know there's something wrong. So I'm very attentive to them. So I'm following up on them. Why? Because if I show that I care about you, what are you going to do? You're going to work harder because I care, right? So attentiveness to me is huge, and I do it to every single person on my team. So now let's go to culture. So those 3 core values and standards that I live by, guess what happens? On my whole circle lives by them too. So now we duplicate culture. So if you walk into any of my companies, right, and you ask somebody how they're feeling, guess what they're gonna do? They're gonna tell you.
You're gonna be gratitude, you're gonna be happy.
Yeah, and if they're having a bad day, they'll be vulnerable. But like, today's been a fucked up day. Why?
Here's the clarity.
This. Clarity. So now my culture, the hardest thing to build in any company is culture. Because most people don't understand who they are. I understand myself completely of who I am. And I know every person in my team, in my circle, have the exact same core values or similar core values and standards, and all we do is duplicate it. So for me, it's very easy now because I have so many mini Cesars around me that we just duplicate the culture. So the culture, if you walk into one of my companies and you walk into a whole different company that's different, that's why now going back to how I have my partners from the call centers, investors in my NFT, because they know the culture is the same. Think about it. It's all intertwined. So now I've been able to duplicate myself in so many people with my similar core values and standards that they have. So guess what the culture is? It just boils down straight to the culture. So it's very easy to create a culture. I was sharing with you earlier that a great network of ours asked me, like, what the hell am I doing to make this office boom like this? It's the culture.
So thank you for sharing that. Like I said, I deal with business owners all the time, and I've noticed that some of them do have them, some of them don't, or some of them don't think it's important. But throughout my career, if you will, or I've been able to understand that in a business, you have to have this things in place, right? Your culture. And if you guys pay attention to all the business owners I've interviewed, the business owners I know, like yourself, they all have the same characteristics. They all have that, right? So with that being said, my last question to you, Cesar, would be, based on those core values that you have, company culture, is that how you pretty much break down somebody that either you're gonna hire to work for you or business wise? Is that how you break them down?
So yeah, and one of the things when you live by your core values and standards, it's very easy to identify the people that have them. So like we were talking about earlier, when we build, a team, when we build a new organization, everybody we bring on the team is based on the same core values and standards. So we interview, and based on the questions and based how people talk is how you realize if they fit into your core values and standards, and that creates a culture, like by default. So it goes hand in hand. They're two different things, but it makes it easier, because if you're trying to force if people try to say, okay, my culture is going to be this, right, but your core values are the opposite, well, good luck trying to put it together. But if your core values and standards align with your culture, it just falls in place. And that's where most people don't understand that. They're trying to create a culture when their core values and standards don't match it. Mm-hmm. And that's where the problem is. So when you're hiring or building a team or bringing in the pieces, core value and standard, your core values and standards have to align in order to be able to create the culture.
Now, let me ask you this real quick. I know that I said that was the last question, but I have to ask, what if you have a great person in front of you that you know it's going to be good, that one key player that you might have, but he doesn't really fit in? What do?
You don't bring him on the team.
Plain simple.
You know how hard that is to do?
That's why I'm asking, because if somebody is good, you're like, man, this kid is, he can talk well, he dresses well, he has everything that you look good. But this here does not click.
And I'm going to share with you why you cut him off. We talked earlier, and we said, when things feel forced,
they're not going to work.
So you bring that person on, right? You have your whole culture, the dynamics are great. You bring that person that does not fit.
Like a little disease.
What is he going to do? He's going to piss off the people that are what?
They're already doing it. They're already in the culture.
And what are you going to do? So as a leader, what are you going to catch yourself doing?
You're going to go back to what he's
trying
doing.
to fix it. you're gonna try to spend time and having them align, right? And they align for a week or two, and then they fall off track because that's not their core values and standards. They don't align. What happened? Now you're gonna have this battle that you're gonna have your team pissed off at you. You're gonna have this person that's not gonna give you all they got now because they're in that dynamics duel, right? And guess what happens? So now you're in a rat race. Now instead of building a company, you're babysitting.
Yeah, and I seen that. Yeah.
So guess what? Keep looking. There's somebody else out there that falls in place. And I'll share a quick thing to wrap this up with this concept. So they interviewed the CEO of Marriott hotels, and they asked them, it's like, you know, I have the question that the whole world's asking: how do you train people to be happy? Because you go to if you ever stayed at Marriott, it's very friendly people. They're always smiling, right? And they asked them, like, so how do you train? And the CEO laughs. He's like, what do you mean train? He's like, yeah. He's like, what's your training model to make them happy? He's like, well, we don't train happy people. We hire happy people. Think about it. So people are, think about it. Go to Disneyland. Everybody that works there is happy. You think they train them to be happy? They hire happy people. And what do we do? What do people do? You find somebody with good talent, right? They don't fit your core values. Let's say Disneyland. They're not happy. What do you think is going to do to their culture if they bring somebody that's not happy?
Cut them off.
Fuck it up. Mm. So you have to not bring them on your team if they don't align.
That is too. That's a good one. That's a good analogy, but it's very, very true.
And it's true. And the thing is we make things hard as human beings. When it's really not that hard. If you start talking to people that are, like the CEO of Marriott, when they asked him that question, like, just imagine they had a training to make people happy. No, the moment that training goes over your head, what are you gonna do? Go back to your old self. Yeah. Have you done the Dutch Bros?
No.
You know the new coffee stuff?
Yeah, no, I haven't.
Well, whenever you chance go through one, everyone's happy. And you talk to them, and they hire happier. Everybody's smiling, everybody's singing. And it's so crazy. It's the culture.
Yeah.
So the reason, and again, I'll finish it with this. Anybody out there that finds the right piece and hires the right piece, but they're not doing what they're supposed to, is because that person doesn't fit their culture. And you know what's crazier? People are lazy to go find that right piece.
They'd rather just sit with the one they have.
And that's where they'll keep struggling.
And that's where their success doesn't come as soon as it's supposed to.
Or it'll never come.
It'll never come. Man, Cesar, I can spend, like I said, brother, hours and hours with you. Thank you so much for being on the channel.
Grateful to be here. Thank you.
I hope you guys liked the episode. Please comment, subscribe, share this video. We'll put his Instagram information if you guys want to follow him. I hope you guys enjoy this conversation, this talk, this interview, this podcast, whatever you want to call it. I can sit here and talk to this guy all day long, but I hope you guys enjoy our episode of Off-Road with Alex Perez. Thank you so much for the support, and we will be back with more videos and more information. So with that being said, sir, thank you so much.
Thank you.
God bless you and your family.
Likewise, thank you so much.
Much more success. And with that being said, mi gente, we'll see you guys into the next one.
Thank you.